Good afternoon, everyone. There are a couple of firsts. It seems like the room almost brought itself to order, which I don't think has ever happened in the history of the United Nations. And also, it's also nice to have such a fashionable crowd here this afternoon. No offense to my UN colleagues and our representatives from the member states, but we don't always have quite such a fashionable crowd for meetings at the UN. But thank you all for being here. My name is Robert Skinner. I'm the Executive Director of the United Nations Office for Partnerships. You're going to hear from me for a couple minutes as I kind of set the stage, and then we'll hear from His Excellency, Mr. Jürgen Schultz, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Germany, and then from Detlef Braun, a member of the Executive Board at Messe Frankfurt, and then from Carrie Bannigan, a founder of the Conscious Fashion Campaign. And then we'll also hear briefly at the end of the program from my colleague from the UN Office for Partnerships, Lucia Brigham, who is here to my left. And again, it's just my pleasure to welcome all of you here today. We're pleased to announce a new collaborative initiative between Messe Frankfurt, the United Nations Office for Partnerships, and the Conscious Fashion Campaign. And the intent is to accelerate achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, or the Global Goals, as some of you may know them by. I hope at least some of you know about the SDGs and the Global Goals. How many do? Excellent, excellent. That's great to see. As I said, we're hoping to accelerate achievement by engaging leading fashion industry events, including trade shows and the wider fashion industry. The UN Office for Partnerships serves as a global gateway for catalyzing and building multi-stakeholder partnerships to advance the implementation of the SDGs. Partnerships just like this one. We provide a platform for effective engagement and work to leverage the assets and expertise of a broad range of partners in furtherance of the SDGs. As a member of the UN Fashion Alliance and the advisor to the Conscious Fashion Campaign, our office facilitates awareness, advocacy, engagement to achieve the SDGs within the fashion and textile industry and across business globally, as well as with civil society, philanthropy, academia. We try and bring partnerships together so that we can have all of the sectors work together to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Messe Frankfurt is the world's largest trade fair, congress, and event organizer with its own exhibition grounds. It is headquartered in Frankfurt am Main. The company is jointly owned by the city of Frankfurt and the state of Hesse and has more than 2,500 employees at 30 locations, and I'm sure you'll hear a bit more from Detlef on that during the course of his presentation. And for now, I would just like to turn the floor over to His Excellency, Mr. Jürgen Schultz, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Germany. Ambassador Schultz, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, and first of all, a very, very warm welcome. It's great to see this room so crowded, so full. I can tell you I've been here in the United Nations for almost 3 years, and we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, the Agenda 2030, quite a bit. But we never, as far as I remember, have done it by way of taking the textile industry as a concrete example. And I find this a great point of departure for our discussions. We have a lot of abstract, a lot of general discussions. I think this is concrete. This is with people from the industry who are interested in the industry, and I think that's really a very, very good way. And I come to that in a second. It's so important that, you know, not only the states implement the Agenda 2030. Of course, the states are the primary guys who are responsible for that too, but at the same time, the states and the administrations cannot go it alone. We need everybody to be on board. We need the private sector, we need science, we need academia, we need NGOs, we need civil society. It's really an all-of-society approach, and that's why this is so great. I'm really delighted to see you here. So, dear Robert Skinner, dear Detlef Braun, dear Carrie Bannigan, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a few words on the theme and that we want to discuss today. The textile industry, of course, is a key industry. It is basically where Europe's industrialization began in the 19th century, as you all know, and it is still, 150 years later, at the very center of globalization. A pair of jeans requires today around 140 production steps spread across, more or less, in average, a dozen countries or so. So this is globalization at work. In this way, globalization has many advantages. It has created millions of jobs. Over 100 million people work in cotton production around the world, and another 75 million people work in sewing shops, especially in emerging and developing countries. the contribution of the textile industry to development in these countries is, without any question, enormous. And the private sector, of course, plays a very important role to achieve what we call sustainable development. The United Nations has already created numerous initiatives to promote this cooperation with the private sector. Just by way of example, I would mention the UN Global Compact. I think is a very good example. Or the UN's guiding principles on business and human rights are also very important in that context. In Germany, to talk about my own country, we are implementing these principles through what we call our National Action Plan to implement the Agenda 2030. We've been doing these national action plans now for some years, and we take it very seriously. I think it's fair to say that Germany is doing pretty well in general, but that doesn't mean that we have any room for complacency. There are still many areas where we also have to get better and to improve, and that's what we try to do. And the federal government, for example, expects all companies to perform human rights due diligence. It expects all companies to adopt the process described in the National Action Plan in a manner appropriate for their size, industry, and position in the supply chain. Now, when I talked about the positive effects of globalization, we are all aware that this equation has two sides to it. Of course, there are many, many positive effects of globalization, but there's also a downside to globalization. And some have called it the globalization of indifference. Others have called it the globalization of inequality. So there are many things that we have also to take into account when we see globalization, and we have to make sure that we get the balance right, that we see the benefits and work on the benefits of globalization while not neglecting the other side of the equation. Social protection is needed, rights and health coverage for those who work and are affected by globalization is critical. Child labor is still prevalent. Also in our days, we all are aware of that, and we have to fight that, especially in the cotton production, for example. Moreover, textile supply chains still have a significant impact on the environment and climate, especially the cultivation and production of raw fibers and textile finishing. A single pair of jeans requires, for example, around 8,000 liters of water. It's quite a bit, if you think about it. The textile industry causes 6% of global greenhouse emissions and is responsible for a significant amount of the microplastic in our oceans. So we have to get the balance right, and that's what we want to discuss, of course, today. Now, there's also this phrase that is coined fast fashion, and I think that fast fashion only exacerbates the problem. 100 billion articles of clothing are produced every year, and a large percentage ends up in the garbage within a year, unfortunately. And we know that, for example, in Germany, people purchase on average 60 pieces of clothing per year and often wear them for only half as long as they did 15 years ago. So this is a trend that also makes things not more easy, but actually complicates things. But more and more people at the same time are starting to ask how their clothes are being produced. And that's, on the other side, good. Sustainable fashion is important to 3/4 of people in Germany. And 2/3 of Germans would be willing to pay more for brands which pay adequate wages. I think that's good. The fashion industry has recognized this trend. For 73% of German fashion producers, sustainability is now the, and I quote, the most pressing problem of our time, unquote. So this shows how the situation has changed, how the issue of Agenda 2030, sustainability, sustainable development is gaining more and more importance. And I would also say that this implies for many aspects of business, including employment of young employees. More and more young people who want to join companies ask that question and say, well, what about sustainable development? What about sustainability? What I'm doing, what I'm working for? So these are very important questions. So there are many initiatives that try to promote these ideas. The green button is one of them. The green button will make orientation in this industry easier. It is an official label for socially and ecologically produced textiles. And the special thing about the green button is that it does not assess only the individual product. It examines the company as a whole. And single flagship products are not even enough to obtain the green button. Overall, 46 demanding product and company criteria need to be met for topics as varied as wastewater management and bans on forced labor, for example. The green button is by now a global label, and it complies with EU and WTO law, and its reviews are conducted by independent auditors in accordance with international ISO norms, so very generally accepted standards. And the basis for company evaluations are the UN's guiding principles on business and human rights, as well as the OECD's recommendation for the textile industry. So this, I think, shows that a lot is already ongoing, more needs to be done, but the enormous social and ecological challenges in the textile industry can seldom be solved by a single actor, of course, and this is why the United Nations are also such an important venue to discuss this right here, also in New York. And this is why, for example, German Development Minister Dr. Gerd Müller launched a Textile Alliance in 2014, which follows also a very holistic approach. As a multi-stakeholder initiative, it brings together textile producers, distributors, unions, politicians, and civil society all together. And it assesses risks along the entire supply chain, from the sourcing of raw materials to disposals. The Alliance basically supports and enforces corporate due diligence among member companies, which make up around 50% of German textile retail sales. And furthermore, members work together in alliance initiatives on solutions and implement them on site in the production countries. But many additional steps are still needed for a sustainable and fair global textile industry. It will require us to work together and join forces in alliances and partnerships, and that's what we are trying to bring about. Today, we are presenting a decisive new alliance in partnership with the United Nations Office for Partnership, the Frankfurt Messe. They will prominently feature the topic of sustainable textile and fashion practices in a series of fashion and textile trade fairs around the world. And they're very well suited to do so with their unique expertise and professionalism. Trade fairs are ideal for introducing the topic of sustainable textiles to a broad public. They have long been a place of communication, innovation, and the exchange of ideas. With Messe Frankfurt as a partner, the UNOP has now a global leader in trade fairs and events for the textile industry on its side. And with leading international trade fairs like Heimtextil, Tech Textile, Tex World, and Intertextile, Messe Frankfurt has one of the largest networks in the textile and fashion industry. More than 22,500 exhibiting companies and over 530,000 guests have recently attended one of its over 50 textile and fashion trade fairs all around the world. I strongly believe that this partnership will provide impetus to increase sustainability in the value and supply chains of the textile and fashion industry, and I thank you once again for being with us today, and I'm really looking forward to our exchange today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Schultz. I mean, that's a great reminder of the impact that this collaboration can have and the importance of bringing sectors together to take on the issues that make up the SDGs. We're not going to be able to get this done unless all the sectors come together to really make a difference. And so thank you, for those words reminding us of that. For our next presenter, I have to say, we met each other a few months ago, and as soon as Detlef left my office, I said to Lucia, how are we going to make sure we work with that guy? Because this is one of the best meetings I've had, and there's real commitment there. And then now, just a few months later, without a lot of wrangling, just a lot of sort of common vision and shared ideas about how we can get this done, here we are sitting at the UN with a collaboration put together to move forward. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Detlef Braun to present the vision of the initiative. Again, Detlef is a member of the executive board at Messe Frankfurt.
Thank you very much, Robert, for exaggerating a little bit, but this sounds really pretty good. Mr. Ambassador, I must say you are a perfect ambassador as well for Messe Frankfurt. You did a wonderful selling job. Carrie, pleasure to work together with you, and Lucy as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to be here. It's very easy. How do you get me? Invite me to New York. You called me last week, and here I am. It's a real pleasure. And thank you that so many of you showed up here in this afternoon. Busy time at the holidays at the UN, ladies and gentlemen. Usually this is the time to look back and to review the year. But we don't want to look back in this year. I think we would like to look straight forward And this is exactly the reason why we're here today. We're looking for the global collaboration of Messe Frankfurt, and as you already mentioned, our Texpertise Network, with the Conscious Fashion Campaign and United Office of Partnership to promote sustainable development goals in the year 2020 and the years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, Messe Frankfurt really believes in partnerships. And we are even a strong believer in partnerships and international cooperation when times are getting a little bit more crucial. And I think you all agree that we are living at the moment in a very challenging environment. I think business is done extremely fast. The challenges are extremely complex at the moment. We call this in Germany a VUCA world. This is a volatile, uncertain, a very complex, and a world which is really done by ambiguity, where we're in. Business, as I mentioned, it's 3:15, will never be as slow as of 3:15 today, ladies and gentlemen. I think you all feel this in your different industries. And we call it as well a hurricane season. And I'm not talking about the climate, where we talk later a little bit, because there are so many challenges on the economical, on the ecological side, and on the structural and technical changes in the world. The digitalization, artificial intelligence, etc., is just one word. In this world, there's a counter movement. And this is the good thing, basically, that people want to meet physically. And this is exactly DNA, this is exactly why you are here. And so many of you are here and wanted to see, network, touch, experience, and meet other people, basically. And this personal encounter is more than ever en vogue. And this is basically the original business model of Messe Frankfurt. This is our DNA. And Messe Frankfurt, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, is since 780 years, not 78 years, 780 years in the business. So we are not a startup company, as you can see. We are a dinosaur, I mean a pretty active dinosaur. And ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you can see I'm not one of the founding members of this company. I hope you still can see. Maybe as time goes by, it will change a little bit. Pretty close, yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Robert, you mentioned it. The year 2019 was the most successful year of this not startup companies in 780 years. We are, as mentioned, for those who don't know us, I have seen some of the faces who see and visit our fairs in Frankfurt and the rest of the world. Was the best year ever. We do about 430 large events, big ones around the world. 2/3 of them are done outside of Germany. We have about 100,000 companies who showcase their products on our exhibitions. We have about 5 million professional buyers on our shows in Frankfurt around the world. And Messe Frankfurt is the global player in the exhibition business. At the moment, we have a distribution network and we are present in 189 countries around the world. So we're getting close to the number of the United Nations. We're working on this. Next time we're going to sit here, maybe we have equal membership where we are present. This is the biggest investment. I don't know whether you have been in Frankfurt. If not, I invite you here with. We're going to start, and I come later, our exhibition season as of January next year. This is the biggest investment of the city of Frankfurt. We safeguard 33,000 jobs in Frankfurt and the area, and we have an indicating a purchasing power of 3 billion euros with all the fairs we're going to do only in Germany. Messe Frankfurt is a truly global player. We are the leader in 5 big industries, where we have the #1 exhibition brands. Maybe you heard about Ambiente, the largest consumer goods show in the world. The auto shows, etc., other topics around the world. These segments are consumer goods, media, creative industry, mobility, logistics, technology, and last but not least, the topic we want to talk today, which is textile and textile technology. Just to give you an idea of one of our fairs like Ambiente, if you want to see Ambiente, we cover with consumer good products 56 soccer fields. I don't know that soccer is not as popular as in Germany, but to give you another idea, if you want to visit these 5,000 exhibitors on this show, you have to walk 47.4 kilometers. This is roughly 34 miles. Just to give you a dimension of the size of shows Messe Frankfurt is doing usually. Textile, as you can see here on the slide, is our passion and is our profession. Messe Frankfurt is by far the worldwide leader in executing textile shows. We call the umbrella where we're going to operate in the world a so-called Texpertise Networks. At the moment, we have 58 events. Behind this event, Mr. Ambassador, you already mentioned, we have 22,600 companies, exhibitors on all our shows, and roughly 520,000 professional buyers on these shows. We cover the whole entire value chains from yarns, fibers, fabrics, fashion, technical textile, textile processing, cleaning, etc. And we have the leading event in each of these segments of the textile business. Just to give you some examples, Intertextile Apparel in Shanghai just happened. It's the biggest show in the apparel industry, 5,000 exhibitors, just has lately been done. We were just celebrating the 25th birthday of this show. Heim Textile comes around, beginning of Frankfurt, the largest show in the area of interior and contract textiles. Textile, Text Process, the really innovation firework, Technik and Textiles and textile processing, Text World, apparel sourcing, the leading fairs in the apparel industry. Messe Frankfurt, as I mentioned before, is a truly global player, and we have a truly global commitment. We are all over the world. We're covering all the major markets, from Argentina to the United States, from Russia to France, from Germany to China, from India to Africa. We're covering all the rising hub in the textile business with our different shows. Just 4 weeks ago, I had the pleasure to sign a new contract and memorandum of understanding with the government of Ethiopia. I was there together with the Minister of Economy, and to further intensify our collaboration in Africa. Textile is the biggest industry in Ethiopia there. We're organizing now the Fashion Week in Addis Ababa. We're developing and internationalizing the whole industry, and we make sure that the whole textile value chain will be brought by our different shows in this wonderful country, as one of the examples. As we are right in the middle of all the developments, what we see and what you as expert as well see very much, that the innovation drivers of the industry are, or the key drivers on the one side, two major players. The one side are technical textiles. These are the fastest growing segment of the industry. It is driven by technology, by digitalization, and of course the other one where we're talking very strongly today, it's sustainability, which is driven simply by the fact that there is no planet B, basically. And this is where our collaboration, where I'm extremely excited, and not I only, Ms. Seifer as well, Lily Fair as well. She is the marketing manager and media manager on all our textile activities and the whole organization of Messe Frankfurt. This is where our collaboration unfolds its power. We will, as already mentioned, step by step present the United Nations SDGs to the global interwoven textile community. And as I mentioned, this is already a pretty big universe with 58 shows, nearly 23,000 exhibitors and companies showcasing. And I can only tell you that the best is still ahead of us. We extending very strongly in the next couple of years our initiatives in the worldwide textile business. And of course, together with our new partners on board. On all our platforms, the SDGs will become very visible. They get the exposure, they will get tangible, open to experience. It's all about raising awareness, encourage action, interaction, and exchange, and driving change in one of the most resource-intensive industries in the world. And this is an industry, it is not a small industry, as you all know, which depends 60 million jobs worldwide only in the apparel industry. And this industry, as we already heard from the ambassador and from Robert, has tremendous challenges. These challenges are most probably much bigger than at the end of the 80s when the production caravan shifted to low-cost countries for the first time. And even more increasing cost pressure, high speed, and fast-changing collections. But on the other hand, the pressure to transform one of the most resource-intensive industries in terms of water and energy consumption, use of chemicals, waste production, and carbon footprint, according to sustainability criteria, is rising very massively. And this may appear, for some of you, maybe like the squaring of the circle of the industry, but these apparently conflicting challenges are not only the biggest waste, but let's be positive, they are as well one of the biggest chances for this industry to succeed in. Sustainability is becoming, in Germany we call this Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, fueled by grassroots movements from generations Z and M, led by Fridays for Future, pioneer Greta Thunberg, and ladies and gentlemen, behind this there is a new continent. We have 2.3 billion people in this so-called generation Z and M. And they are definitely the consumers of the future. And they have a very different demand. And just to give you one example, in Germany, this generation, M and Z, they will count in 5 years from now for 2/3 of the employed population. So this will be a very different ball game. Indeed, the market for sustainable products is already big. It's growing fast. As I mentioned, technical textile is the fastest driver. Sustainable products are growing as well very strongly. And this becomes very much apparent on our textile show in particular. Just 2 or 3 numbers. There's not too much numbers outside in this market at the moment. Ökotex made a study around the world with 11,000 consumers. And exactly what you mentioned as well, Ambassador, 73% of the consumers internationally, they are very much interested and engaged in sustainable products. And there was another research done by the leading German magazine, Textilwirtschaft, saying that for 73% of the fashion producer, sustainability is the top topic. It's a little bit less on the trade. The research showed that 55% of the trade showed that sustainability is the key issue at the moment. And one more number to give you. In 2018, sustainable products increased in Germany by 13% to a total turnover of 146 billion euros. So just to give you an idea about the size. This history of sustainability in our textile show did not just started when Greta turned 3. 13 years ago, we started already in 2006 at Interstoff in Asia with sustainable production from Asia, followed by Paris and New York in our different shows. And since 10 years now, we consequently develop and push forward the global hub for fashion, sustainability, and innovation in Berlin. And the name of this show, and I've seen as well some of you who have been there, is called NeoKnit. NeoKnit at the moment stands for the biggest European platform for sustainable fashion. NeoKnit embraces style, business knowledge, inspiration, fun, and gives home to a fast-growing community of sustainable lifestyler. And this is flanked by a so-called Fashion Sustain conference. And NeoKnit with this combines the second paradigm, as I mentioned, technology and innovation, to the paradigm of sustainability. All this is known by NeoKnit. We have built a common ground for stakeholders, decision makers, brands, labels, etc. And we have taken this format to different countries. In 2019, we had spin-offs in New York, in your wonderful country, in Los Angeles, and in Shanghai, and of course, will take this initiatives further abroad to all other markets. For us, this partnership with you, Robert, and your team is a perfect match. Sustainability is a key driver. We're doing this already since 10 years. We have initiatives from green directories, green tours, special talks to joint presentations at NeoKnit, and now we're adding another milestone to the collaboration with the United Office for Partnership and the Conscious Fashion campaign, of course, sorry. In 2019, we did a kickoff event in Berlin at NeoKnit during the Fashion Week. Thank you again, Carrie. This was a wonderful cooperation for your commitment. We continue this in summer. From the 7th to 10th of January, you all invited. We will have Heimtextil. We will debut our engagement for the biggest international trade fair for home and contract textiles, Heimtextil. We will have about 3,000 exhibitors there. We will have about 65,000 professional buyers from 156 countries. We will have roughly 300 journalists, international ones, where we're going to roll out our initiatives. What are concrete actions here? We have interactive infos, photo booths on the SDGs in the Green Village, Heimtextil, Neonit, to using, of course, the power of social media. We have panel talks on the SDGs, Fashion Sustain Conference. We have listenings and listing on our trade show directories, Green Directory. We have guided tours, and of course, we will have joint press conferences. So in general, we are backed with long-term partners, certifiers, seal awarders, industry exhibitors, and of course, we will roll out now our framework. Since 2010, Messe Frankfurt is the first and so far the only trade show organizer who has been accepted as a member of the UN Global Compact as of any one German exhibition company. In combination with our global textile expertise, I think this is even a more fruitful win-win situation. So we will intensify all our engagement to all our platforms around the world. So if you have no plans in January, I'm looking forward to see you at Heimtextil. You should stay there from Frankfurt to go to Berlin, where we will have Neonit in this, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your attention. I wish you very happy holidays, happiness for the new year. I'm looking very much forward for a long-lasting, fruitful and trustful and very successful partnership. I think the best is yet to come. And I can tell you, Robert and your team, that Messe Frankfurt is extremely enthusiastic. We cannot wait to further enlarge our cooperation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you, Detlef, and thanks for laying out, the challenges that the fashion and textile industry have, but more importantly, and Ambassador Schultz laid it out as well, the real opportunity, the huge opportunity we have to make a real impact and make a difference, and that the industry has to make a difference in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. It really can have an impact. It's such an influential industry, and we can't wait. And believe me, Detlef, we are also incredibly excited about moving this collaboration forward. And I think all of you can see why I was so excited after that first meeting that we had to put this and bring it together. And thanks to you for making that happen, Detlef. I would now like to turn the floor to a very good friend who's been working with the UN Office for Partnerships before I even joined the office a year and a half ago. So Carrie Bannigan is the founder of the Conscious Fashion Campaign, which aims to unite the fashion industry to accelerate the achievement of the SDGs and champion fashion as an influential sector which addresses the world's most pressing issues. Carrie, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us. And I would like big thank you as well to all the viewers via UN Web TV. I'd like to firstly give a big thank you to Robert and for Detlef for your leadership with both the United Nations Office for Partnerships and Messe Frankfurt for supporting the shared vision for the Conscious Fashion Campaign to impact positive change throughout the fashion industry. Working hand in hand, I believe we can tap into the resources and the expertise of leaders within the fashion event sector to make the SDGs a success. The Conscious Fashion Campaign was born out of a need to build a bridge for the gap between the world's leading fashion events and the Sustainable Development Goals. Trade shows, fashion weeks, and conferences have incredible influence to reach retailers, brands, media, and manufacturers in the fashion business to action real change. It is a necessity to engage with these innovators and decision makers to enable the SDGs to scale and create concrete strategies for action. Through our global event partners, the Conscious Fashion Campaign will integrate education, advocacy, and ultimately engagement, while also seeking to implement sustainable and circular event logistics and operations. Our aim is to help businesses learn and integrate the SDGs into their business models, to develop meaningful multi-stakeholder partnerships, which will secure a future where no one is left behind. The potential for change when you engage the fashion industry is exponential. If we work together to shape the future of fashion, we will create dynamic impact, lasting change, and deliver on our core mission to make the SDGs a reality. As a blueprint to achieve a better future and a more sustainable one for all, the SDGs address the global challenges that we face. As you all know in this room, I see so many familiar faces with the work that everybody does. These challenges are going to take all of us. They range from poverty to the inequality to climate change, peace, and justice. The fashion industry heavily impacts on most, if not all, of these challenges. The Conscious Fashion campaign commits to actively support the upcoming decade of action and delivery for sustainable development. The time is now to be creative and innovative. We need to leverage solutions, scale success stories, and catalyze commitment to sustainable business models that support the SDGs and secure a future for people and planet that we can all be proud of. Over the past year, in our pilot program, we engaged in global activations to garner a better understanding of what was happening in the current landscape in sustainability in the event world. We were able to introduce the Sustainable Development Goals to over 96,000 retailers representing 87 countries. We aligned with 460 conscious fashion brands, and we engaged with global brands to learn about their plans and work of what they were doing currently and the future, as well as to learn of their obstacles to make the SDGs a reality. This included representatives from Gap, Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, Stella McCartney, G-Star Raw, Target, American Eagle, Madewell, DKNY, and Marks and Spencer's. And in all honesty, the list goes on, which shows you on each of the moments that the three gentlemen have touched on today, there is a need for this and people want to make difference now. During the United Nations General Assembly, we shared our pilot program findings supported by the Lensing Group and Avery Dennison. To date, we have gained prominent supporting partnerships in the US, the UK, Germany, France, the Netherlands, and China. We look forward to continuing our partnership with Messe Frankfurt in 2020 and committing together to achieve the world's 2030 agenda. From here today, as Detlef had mentioned, we'll be activating our partnership in Heim Textile in Frankfurt and Neonit in Berlin in January. I'll only echo the invitation because you made everyone feel so welcome already. So we hope we'll all see you in January. Our work could not have been done without the relentless support and determination of our colleagues who are not able to be with us here today. Timo Schweinsfeyer, Neonit Show Director and Messe Frankfurt Director of Marketing and Communications, and Megan Mackerstocker, Conscious Fashion Campaign Partnerships. A huge thank you to Lucia Brigham of the United Nations Office for Partnerships for believing in this vision when I brought it just with some notes on a yellow pad and being the guiding force as the industry navigates the SDGs. For 2020, we look forward to facilitating knowledge share as well as highlighting key innovations at major industry events to shape the sustainability agenda and to drive solutions. We need more examples of leadership for change like Messe Frankfurt to make the next decade the most impactful yet. And we welcome you as industry innovators to join the Conscious Fashion campaign. And thank you so much again for being here today.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you for your inspiration. Your commitment to the SDGs and to fashion and bringing the worlds together is truly impressive. And thank you also for teaching us so much about what fashion and the industry can do for the SDGs, because I, for one, certainly did not recognize it when we started talking. So it's been very, very helpful to us as we've advanced our efforts. We're going to have some time for question and answers, but first I want to thank Ambassador Schultz again. As many of you might imagine, it's a very busy schedule around for the Deputy Permanent Representative this week as we head into the holidays. So let's give him another round of applause and thank him for his participation. As I said, we do have a bit of time for some questions and hopefully some reasonable answers from the panel here. And so I'll open the floor for about 10 minutes. And please, as I call on you, identify yourself and the organization you're with to help us be as responsive as we can. And I see a hand up right up in front here.
to congratulate, oh, now it works. I can hear myself. Yeah. First of all, I want to congratulate the United Nations Office of Partnerships, Messe Frankfurt, and Conscious Fashion Campaign for such a wonderful initiative. Just like His Excellency Ambassador mentioned one thing, I just want to add on to this. He mentioned that 8,000 gallons of water is used to produce one pair of jeans. I just want to add into this that 10 different chemicals are also discharged to the land after making one pair of jeans. So that is something, a very serious issue we have to address because of the challenges of the developing countries. They don't have so many resources to recycle those chemicals or to discharge properly those chemicals. And being a human rights organization, by the way, I forgot to tell, my name is Malik Abid and I'm the Secretary General of International Human Rights Commission. And I was impressed to receive an invitation from Carrie's office. I don't know what she was thinking, inviting a human rights organization into this program, but thank you so much for inviting. It's the last time now. But what I'm going to say, this will not be the last time, I promise. So having worked in the fashion industry for almost 20 years before I moved into human rights, I can also share some of my concerns about the fashion industry. Healthcare. Most of the workers working in the third world countries in the factories, they don't have appropriate health care. Child labor, just like His Excellency Ambassador mentioned, we still have serious issues of the child labor. We have very low, terribly low wages in the third world countries. We have unhealthy and unsafe working conditions, and I can mention two very important incidences. A few years ago, a factory collapsed in Bangladesh. Almost 2,000 workers died in that collapse. Those families are still waiting for any kind of compensation from either the manufacturer, the factory owner, or from the owners of the companies who are working. Similarly, a factory was burned down in Pakistan. Almost 600 workers, they died. They were burned alive in that factory because of unsafe conditions. So my very humble suggestions that we should also keep in mind the unsafe working conditions and the betterment of those families and workers in the factories. And by the way, I have worked with Messe Frankfurt for 20 years. Wonderful experience and what a beautiful company. Thank you so much for this partnership. And Robert, thank you so much for this great opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that important commentary. Does that, Detlef or Carrie, do you want to respond? Okay. I think that's exactly why we're working together and why we see these kinds of collaborations and partnerships is so important to push the goals, the sustainable development goals, which include all the issues that you just talked about, so that we're all working on them together. So thank you for your comments and know that's exactly what we're trying to do. Other questions, comments? Oh, there's a lot over on this side. I'm gonna go to the back. I can't just be in the front. They're all the way in the back.
But Detlef, what are you doing at Messe Frankfurt addressing the SDGs? In particular, whenever I go to a trade show, the amount of waste and how are we incorporating the SDGs actually into the trade show itself?
Absolutely. There are different and various activities what we're going to do. First of all, trade show is a pretty, in general, efficient tool to bring people together. Just to give you some Just to give you some numbers, as I mentioned, we had 100,000 exhibitors, 5 million professional buyers. So they're meeting in our different shows. If you would, and most of them are small and medium-sized companies, and most of them are not selling anymore, they're looking for a new business contact around the world. If they would go and try to make contacts with these new parties, this would be multiplying their travel time and their traveling by approximately 10 times, basically. And you know what this would mean by the CO2 emissions when they're traveling around this. So in general, trade fairs are pretty efficient tools to bring people together to do business. On the other side, what we are doing in general, when you take a look on the fairground in Frankfurt, we are building very efficiently our new halls. We have regulations, for example, in Germany, and the new halls in Frankfurt from the infrastructure, basically, they are 45% under the regulations of resource efficiency and energy usage, basically. So the second point is waste. 90% of the waste, when you take, for example, a show as we have in Berlin, the waste management, we recycling, we reusing the materials, etc. Neonet in Berlin, for example, is a show who's really done on a sustainability idea from the products, basically, to the catering, to the dresses of the hostess, from the recycling of the whole waste, etc. So everything is integrated. So then when we take a look at Messe Frankfurt, for example, there are a lot of other benefits. When you buy a Messe ticket, you get all the admissions to use transport, public transport, rather than taking your individual cars. We educating our people in Frankfurt, 25% of them are going with bicycle to the trade fair. So there are a lot of different measurements at the moment which we take action as a trade fair organization to follow basically and the rules which we're giving and promoting together what we're doing with this wonderful organization of the United Nations.
Okay. Thank you, Detlef. I'm going to look this way to see if there's any questions, because the way I'm seated, I'm kind of facing this way most of the time. So I'm going to look to make sure I'm not missing anybody over here. Yes, behind the pillar, which is even more difficult.
Sorry. My name is Tracy. I'm a journalist at Women's Wear Daily. I'm just wondering what criteria needs to be met to exhibit at Neonet?
In general, basically, we have three main criteria. Transparency, and there are a lot of other points which we checked. Then the other point is social responsibility and ecologically. And in between this, there are a lot of sustainability checks, basically, where we work together with different authorities. So they check the collection, basically, they check what certified initiatives are in there, they check on the ground the collection, etc. So there is a big calendar and big action which I have here on all the criteria what we're going to check. But maybe I have a much better expert for Zyla. You would add a couple of things to this as you're totally involved?
So I think the answer is pretty comprehensive. In general, we have a sustainability check. We have worked out criteria together with Textile Exchange, which is an international known organization. The criteria are based on social aspects, so we check whether the companies we work with or the labels we exhibit or are exhibiting at Neonet, whether they pay living wages, whether they have social initiatives for their workers, if they allow audits, independent audits. This is checked. Then on the ecological side, we check whether they use organic materials, recycled materials, all these things. And the supply chain transparency is the third aspect we check in advance before we allow them to exhibit at Neonet. So, on the fairground, as Detlef explained, we check them again. So it's a pretty comprehensive procedure they have to undergo.
Great, thank you. There are a lot of questions on this side, so I'm going to go kind of toward the back and then come up to the front again. In the black sweater here. Yeah, thank you. That's the best I can do.
Thank you. So I think I'm going to ask a question that's a backup from what Tracy was asking, and kind of just to back up what you were saying about how do the exhibitors come in, and is there a way for the exhibitor to become knowledgeable about the SDGs coming in so that they pick one as they're on the exhibitor floor as well? Is that a possibility?
I'm going to answer this one and introduce you because you forgot and I love you.
Oh, yes.
That's Kelly Egan of Peace Day. But thank you so much, Kelly. And actually, it's a part of our partnership criteria as we move forward with everything we'll be doing with Messe Frankfurt and other partners as it rolls out globally. One of the asks that we want to do in pre-show preparation is actually make sure that we're sending out adequate and in-depth information about the Sustainable Development Goals. So exhibitors, past, present, and anybody future that wants to work, for example, at a NeoNeed, they can learn about the Sustainable Development Goals and maybe pick 1 to 3 or more that they're aligning with and what makes sense for their business. One of the things that we want to do and have taken into big consideration is the fashion industry is a very visual, creative sector. And so the goal will be in 2020 as you start attending the trade shows, but more so our partner trade shows to begin with, is that you'll be able to see the Sustainable Development Goals as visual icons in the booths with the exhibitors, where you can actually see as you're walking around what they are aligning with and what they're connected to in their work. One, I think that opens the door for conversation for you to learn more about the Sustainable Development Goals as an exhibitor, but I think it also provides the opportunity for you to connect. The great thing is about the framework of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals is there's somebody there for everybody. And while these retailers, buyers, and media are walking around on these show floors, it's only human to also not be there just to do business, but you can't help but connect to some of the goals that align with you personally. So we're very excited that we'll be working with Messe Frankfurt to be rolling this out. And as I mentioned, encouraging other partnerships to do is to educate about the Sustainable Development Goals way before we even start seeing anything on the show floor.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. And that's what's so important for us at the United Nations is that the goals will be very visible so people can become aware of them, be educated about them. But also what we seek then is for the exhibitors as well as the attendees to then be able to take action around the goals. And that's really important because we're entering a decade of action for delivery of the goals. And we need to bring this sector in, and that's why the partnership with the Conscious Fashion Campaign and Messe Frankfurt is so important to us and why we're so excited about it. I have 2 up front, and I'll take those 2 and see where we are at that point to see if we have time for any more. And it's one here.
Everyone, my name is Elisa Bayer-Lenz, and I am a semi-new face in the sustainable fashion world. My co-founder and I developed a patent-pending 100% compostable alternative for a synthetic fabric such as nylon or polyester. And my question is for myself and my fellow innovators in the room. What are some of the best ways to get involved? Of course, attending the conference is now high on my list, but are there additional resources available for those of us who aren't able to attend the conference just yet? Maybe you mentioned a directory, or we're really looking to develop our own supply chain and actively looking for partners that we can work with on the mill level and other various elements of the global supply chain.
Everyone's looking at me. Okay. It was about the show, but that's great. And thank you, Alyssa, for joining us. I think there's several parts here. Detlef actually listed some great things that they have going on at the show, and I'm sure they're going to be available digitally also, correct, right? That you can find out about. But what we're now looking to do as we roll out into 2020 is what we can do with the assets, resource, and expertise from our partners, such as Messe Frankfurt. I will say one thing that we hear constantly is what you're saying, and I do think, and this is a big call out to anybody, especially more on the tech side, Lucia and I talk about all the time, we wish that there was that tech platform that mapped out what everybody is up to, and there are amazing resources out there to date, but they're just not there that are specifically about the Sustainable Development Goals and what people can do in the industry. Us here today, we made the decision to wrap up the pilot program for 2019 and to make sure people knew about this announcement for 2020, but there is going to be a lot more coming. On top of our list is resources for those that are attending the event, but also those that can connect with us online to take action.
All right, we have one more question from up front here, and I'm guessing because you guys have matching pins that this is going to revolve around human rights. No.
Thank you. Well, I'm not in the fashion business. I'm in the human rights business, but I spent 25 years as an investment banker. So my question is going to be from that perspective. 780 years. That's a lot of years in business. How did you survive? And then I'll come now to the sustainable development. We are looking for data. I think they can be an engine for data. So from that perspective, just so you know, we are promoting fashion at a local level in Senegal, Gambia, Sierra Leone, and beyond. We bought like 550 of the small sewing machines. I have them in my phone here. I will display it to you guys. And we are teaching the difference between a garment that is sewn in China and in Senegal is the finished product. So we look at value added and how can we increase those income from those people. So as we go along, we would like to share those experiences as well, because we've spent months and months and months looking at those things. Around the transatlantic slave trade, how could we stop people from going to Libya? Because most of those belts, people don't have job. And these are little things, what Messe Frankfurt is doing right now could be very, very good for us. So our human rights approach is basically based on intervention. Intervention wherein we can work with government and local, and how do we make things better? Not to go stand there and demonstrate, no. Demonstration is too late, most of the time. So I want to say thank you to the UN office, and beautiful job. 780 years, we want to know, how did you make it?
How much time do you have? I'm flying back tomorrow. So it's the second oldest service business this company is in. I will not tell you what the oldest service business is in, Messe Frankfurt. And everything basically was circled around in Frankfurt, around the Messe, all the activities. Of course, Messe brands were looking totally different, but it was a really high spot for trade. Frankfurt is right in the middle of Europe. So they were meeting basically those who bringing at the beginning natural products together, etc. This developed, this was cultivated, we built brands. We have brands in our portfolio who have already more than 100 years on our shoulder. And this company has been established in the city and was one of the major driver of all activities in Frankfurt, going back to the year 1241 at this time. So since then, the last 100 years, we started to internationalize. We started to build a totally new infrastructure. We were the first German company to go outside of Frankfurt, to internationalize, to be in the last 10 years in 189 countries. We are a company who has a very long press. We are not a stock market-driven company. For our shareholder, sustainability in terms of duration and brands is very important. So we're doing a pretty good job. We're investing very heavily in brands. We have a long press. Even if the going gets tough, basically, we're sticking to our brands and not bringing them in and out, etc. So to say, in the last 100 years, we have developed the leading brands in the industry. So you have to be extremely well connected. This is what we did. You have to manage your brands properly. You have to bring the right exhibitors and buyers to Frankfurt and around the world. So we built the infrastructure in this. We have the professional people working on this. We believe at the moment that for Messe Frankfurt it's halftime. So the next 780 years are in front of us. Yes, there are changes. There's no doubt about this. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of technological driven changes, but personal encounter is extremely important, especially for an industry where you are in, where you want to see, feel, smell the products, etc., see what the competition is doing. And this is what we're offering on our platforms. But what we have found out, and we were talking earlier about the so-called Generation M and Z, what they want is, they want stronger events on the classical exhibition. They want more interaction. They want more emotionalizing the events, and they want a strong balance between the digital and the real physical world. And this is how we are experimenting with new formats like Neonit, Hypermotion in the mobility sector, Festival of Motoring, a totally different topic, Pioneers of Lifestyle, a new format for consumer goods. This is how we're evolving, and we're taking our assets, our brands from Frankfurt around the world. So far, this worked pretty well. I have the pleasure to run these companies with two other colleagues now since 14 years. Every year was a record year in this win, 2019 the best, and 2020, despite all these changes around the world, will be again another very good year. So it's pretty simple. You need a long press and need to stay healthy 780 years, then nothing,
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the comments about data and the need for local action on the SDGs to make sure we're driving these to the SDGs and success on the goals to the local level. I mean, that's something at the UN we're talking about constantly, how we need good data, real-time data to know where we need to emphasize, what are the priorities we need to take on at the local level, because we know that really the goals are going to be achieved at the local level. It's all about working with the national governments, the private sectors locally, civil society, to make sure we're getting to the people that are impacted. That's critical. So thank you for that comment. I know that on the agenda it indicated that it was going to be final remarks by me, but I'm going to defer my final remarks to my colleague, Lucia Brigham, who is here, and I really wanted her to be a part of this, for you to hear from her, because from our office she has really driven this initiative and really brought it to life, and so I feel like she should have an opportunity to talk a little bit about it as we close out here.
Thank you, Robert, and many thanks to all for joining us. I would like to add to the superlatives of today's informative meeting. We are not only stylish, we started exactly on time, and I would like to use my 15 seconds to end on time. So let me just very briefly thank the Permanent Mission of Germany, Ambassador Schulz, and Robert, his colleague, for joining us and supporting the event. It's important to have the member states' engagement, understanding of what we do here, why the partnerships are so important, and that we indeed bring the companies such as Messe Frankfurt to the table and help us to drive the understanding, engagement, and action on the SDGs. So many thanks, Detlef and Lilifer and Timo as well for your vision, commitment, and leadership on not only sustainability, but the whole spectrum of SDGs. And I know that you have been working on various aspects of the SDGs before they were even conceived and adopted. So thank you for that. And many thanks to Carrie for being a friend and an engine behind that. Carrie is bringing these two words together that she knows the best, the UN and the fashion, and she's helping us to build this platform that that hopefully will help all of you to connect the dots. How can we jointly, like who is doing what is happening? How can we not replicate but join forces and really find solutions? And back to Detlef and his team, I just want to make sure that you understand that the fashion and textile industry is just the first step. We are exploring, it's a testing phase for us, and we are hoping to branch out to all the other sectors that Messe Frankfurt is working on. And to you, there are so many friends and colleagues and that have been working on the fashion. And one more point before I'm already out of time. But I think Detlef mentioned that this is the hurricane season, right? I would like to rephrase it a little bit and say that it's, I see it more like a turning point towards the movement. In the past year, we have seen so many powerful, significant initiatives that are merging the fashion and sustainability and the UN's work. I will start with mentioning the Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action, launched a year ago and recognized during the British Fashion Awards. I don't know how many of you watched it, but for the first time ever, on 2nd of December, early this month, the British Fashion Council decided to create a new award that is being dedicated to the sustainability in fashion. And the first awardee is were the signatories of the Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action, so that was a big win for us. We have also seen in the past 12 months the launch of UN Sustainable Fashion Alliance, very important UN initiative, again on the note of understanding who is doing what and how can we communicate better as a UN with one voice to you as an industry. We have also seen in August the launch of the Fashion Pact, yet another important initiative, very much inspired by President Macron and driven by the industry. I think Ambassador Schulz mentioned the jeans and the negative, number of hectares of liters of water that you need to produce to use to produce one pair of jeans. Well, on a positive note, for the past year, we have been working with the denim industry leading trade show called Kingpins. And they actually understood quite some time ago that the denim industry needs to be perceived as part of the solution. And they have, and I think it reflects one of the questions that was raised earlier, that they will be very selective who will be let in the Kingpin show. Only those who have a commitment to sustainability and ethical fashion will be allowed in. On that note, I will recognize a few friendly and inspiring faces in the room. I saw Fernanda. She's doing fantastic things with the women who were in prisons in Brazil, and she's using some leftovers from the leather and engaging these women with indigenous techniques and produces beautiful bags. Patrick Duffy, also, thank you for coming. He's doing phenomenal work on extending the life cycle of the tech. He's on the forefront of solutions on fast fashion. And Trisha, who asks tough questions but also does amazing work on the sustainability. Okay, so. Thank you so much, all of you, and I look forward to biking with you in Frankfurt.
Thank you, Lucia, and thank you for the leadership on this issue that you're demonstrating from our office. It's very exciting. I want to thank the German mission, Ambassador Schultz and Robert. Thank you for being a part of this. Detlef and Messe Frankfurt, Carrie, and the Conscious Fashion Campaign. Thanks to you. Thanks for being part of this important initiative. But most of all, thanks to all of you for joining us here today. We really appreciate your participation as we head into the holiday season. It's great that you took the time to be with us. If we're going to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we need all of you. So again, thank you.